It's naive to believe that you could get your dream job coming out of college. In a lot of cases, you don't want your dream job coming out of college. I've seen too many instances where people get what they think is their dream job, end up hating it, and then feeling stuck. It's okay for to have lots and lots of experiences. Some you're gonna get a lot of value out of, some you're gonna hate. All of that should be helping you determine what you're good at, what you're not good at, and then that will help define where your passions are and what you should be pursuing from a career perspective.
So hi everyone and welcome to another episode of Changing Reality. My name is Harsha, your host, and we're here with Ian, the VP of Consumer Business at Spotify. Thank you, Ian. How are you doing today?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing great, thanks.
Beautiful Monday morning. Is this the busiest or the most toughest time in the week for you?
Monday's usually a pretty good day. Well,
you're not jumping. Okay.
No.
Into the work week.
Ease into the work week, yeah.
Very cool. Love the vibe. And on that note, we often do this fun thing, which is just a quick rapid fire. Mm-hmm. So we're going to do a rapid fire of, something music related for you. So The rules are simple. I'll ask a question in 30 seconds or less. Usually a one-word answer or one phrase does it. And then we just kind of jump into it.
Great. Let's do it.
Are you ready?
Of course.
All right. Cue the drum roll. So rapid fire question number 1. Podcast or music?
Music. My first love, but podcast is getting more and more of my attention.
Ooh, okay. What's the first app you use every day in the morning?
Spotify.
Really?
Of course.
Do you actually cue the music?
Yeah. First thing I do is put on the New York Times Daily podcast every morning.
Oh, actually? Yeah. All right. Waking up informed. There you go. And then, but you answered music earlier. Never mind. It's fine.
Well, on the weekends, it's music. It's just music.
Okay.
On the weekdays, it starts with
you're tuning in.
Podcast,
okay.
Yes.
Brill. Okay. Well, favorite or kind of, what was your top artist in your Spotify Wrapped last year?
I think my top artist was a band called Widespread Panic.
Oh, okay.
They're from from Athens, Georgia, not Atlanta. Athens, Georgia, and I've been listening to them since about 1991. So for a long, long time. They've been around. They're older than I am, which is saying something.
Okay, there you go. Do you ever get top 0.5% of your...
I think I might have been top 0.5% listening of Widespread Panic on Spotify. I think I was one of the top listeners. Yeah. Okay,
well, you rocked it. Amazing. Great job. Okay. What is your non-Spotify favorite app throughout the day?
Probably New York Times Games.
New York Times Games?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, New York
Wordle,
Times.
crossword puzzle. I spend a lot of time on that app.
Okay, very cool. Screen time. What do you think is your rough screen time a day?
Too much. I don't know how to quantify it in terms of hours, but it's definitely too much.
Too much?
Yes.
All right, that's the right answer. And okay, the one underrated band you think we should all be listening to?
Underrated band? Or maybe a band that is up and coming but a little lesser known.
Mm-hmm.
Karina Reichman. She's a bass player out of New York City. She's got her first headlining gig at Webster Hall coming up in a few weeks, and she's amazing.
Okay. Well, it's on the playlist. It's on the radio playlist now.
Sounds good.
And last question.
Yes.
What's the one podcast we should all be listening to?
Depends on your political affiliation, of course. I really do like the Ezra Klein podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that the Rewatchables, where Come From the Ringer, where they talk about movies, is just a great cultural moment podcast. So yeah, either one of those. I mean, there's tons of others, but.
The real answer was Changing Reality, the show we're on. But
sorry about that.
We'll forgive you. Okay. It's fine. We'll play your episode still. But on that note, you have had just a wonderful career, as we were talking about earlier, in kind of the intersection between entertainment and technology. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a career that people dream of having, in a sense. And especially at a company like Spotify, that is a household name. It's something that everyone has on their phone, and it's something that is just so pervasive in day-to-day life. So I assume you had the grand plan since day one. You knew exactly where you were going. And jumping into your story, was this always the dream?
This was always the dream. It was never the plan, but it was always the dream. I I graduated college. The only thing that I knew that I was really passionate about was music. I don't play music. I don't compose, but I like listening to music and I like going to see live music. And that's pretty much my entire daily life was revolving around music, going to see it, reading about it, whatever. And I always, I guess, dreamed of having a career in the music space, but never really thought much about it, never thought much about whether it was realistic or how to even go about it. Particularly, this was the late 90s. The internet was just starting to really become a thing that people were using on a regular basis. The music industry was just on the verge of starting to like its downward descent. And I just wasn't sure that being in the music industry was something that was realistic or viable at the time. Mm-hmm. So I never really spent much time looking for a job in the music business. It wasn't until it's probably around 5 or 6 years after I graduated college, maybe more than that. I had unintentionally and mistakenly fell into a job in the tech sector. I was planning on.
How do you unintentionally and mistakenly fall into a tech job?
My intention, my plan had been after college was to move in with my girlfriend, and we were both going to study for the LSATs together and go to law school. My expectation was law school and then maybe getting a graduate degree in public policy. And so we moved into the city together, and we weren't looking for careers. We were looking for something to pay the bills. And I ended up answering an ad in the New York Times because that's how you got jobs in the late 90s. This was before
and now
internet.
You repay them by listening to
podcasts. Exactly. So I answered an ad in the New York Times, and I got a call back from these guys who were a couple years older than me. And they had started a small tech consultancy downtown in Soho. And really at the time, what they were doing was setting up networks for small businesses. So this was before the internet was really, again, a thing, before there was anything like called the cloud. And in order for offices to get all of their computers talking to each other and then eventually talking to the internet, they all had to be networked together. They had to be basically wired together. They had to all be connected to a centralized server and then an email server and then an external communications network. And so none of that was easy to do. So these guys set up this company that would go out and set up these networks for these small businesses. And I went and interviewed with them, and they said, "What do you know about this kind of technology?" And I said, "Absolutely nothing." They said, "Well, are you willing to be our office manager? Answer the phones, take out the trash, order supplies." Yeah. And they said, "If you're willing to do that, we'll teach you everything that you'd ever want to know about all this work that we're doing. And if you're good at it, you can, you'll stop being an office manager. You'll start going out in the field and setting up these networks." And lo and behold, I was really good at it. I didn't know that I was going to be, but I sort of, I don't know, the logic of the way that these networks operated just worked for my brain. And I kind of fell in love with the technology. And what's really cool, what I didn't realize at the time is that what I was learning was all about the technology and infrastructure that the entire internet was built on. I hadn't realized that at a micro level. Like macro is the internet, but the way that you connected everything together, TCP/IP networks that you connected or that you used in these small offices, kind of gave you the education that you needed to understand roughly. I'm overgeneralizing, but roughly how the internet as a whole worked. And it was an amazing time in the late 90s to have learned that skill.
You knew exactly what was going to happen.
Yeah.
But like on that note, like I think we're in a very similar time now where like a lot of new technologies occurring in the world, a lot of innovation is occurring. And I feel like there's this mindset of people like that they have, which is I need to learn all of it now. And a lot of people are like very intentionally trying to understand the math and the science and how it applies to industry. You did this kind of, on the job, in the wild almost, in a way. And do you think there's a benefit to that versus, all of us who are currently hitting the books? Or what's your kind of go-to when it comes to actually seeing how new technology works and how to actually grasp the impact
I don't even think it's necessarily specific to technology. I think it is the difference between theoretic understanding and practical understanding, right? So you can go to school and you can learn a lot about a lot of things, and then you go into the business world and realize that you don't know anything. So I think learning as much as you can is awesome to have a base of knowledge. But if you use that base of knowledge and assume that you know everything, assume that you go into your first job and that you're smarter than everyone else because of all this that you've learned without that practical experience, I just don't think that you're, that without the practical experience, the foundational knowledge that you have is not nearly as valuable as you think it is. So I think the goal is to figure out how to apply all of the knowledge that you gathered into a real practical sort of work environment. And then you've got the experience you need, right? So like one can't happen without the other. I got lucky that I found myself in an environment where I was encouraged to learn. If I learned, great. If I didn't learn, I would move on to something else. But I think what's interesting about that part of the story is I developed a passion for technology. I would not have told you that coming out of college. I had no idea that I had that passion. I had no idea that I had even had the facility for understanding how all of this was going to work. Which is, I think, I remind lots of young people that I talk to of that. Like, I know it's very tempting to think that you know everything about yourself when you graduate college. And I'm a perfect example of someone who thought he knew everything, or I thought I knew everything that I was passionate about and that I wanted to do. And it was only once I learned on the job that I had there was other things that I was going to be good at, but I would not have known that coming out of college. That gets back to the idea of in practice, you need to put these skills and knowledge into practice so that you can understand if you're good at it and if you have a passion for it. Yeah. So, fast forward on the story to answer your original question. I stayed with this company for a number of years. We morphed from setting up networks into building e-commerce sites. Eventually, we started doing very early wireless development.
Ooh.
This is way before the iPhone.
Yeah, existed. I was going to say in the 90s?
Way before.
Okay.
This is the early 2000s at this point, but it was way before the iPhone existed. It was, if you remember, the BlackBerry devices by RIM. I worked for a company called Palm, which was, one of the earliest makers of PDAs, personal digital assistants. It was one of the biggest tech companies in the world that's weirdly been forgotten in history.
We'll remember them now.
Yeah. So Palm and their product Palm Pilot, I ended up working there. They acquired our company in the city. And so I ended up doing a lot of work in wireless way before the iPhone. And again, this is another situation where I got all of this knowledge about this next big technology trend that was going to explode. I didn't realize it at the time, but it was pretty amazing. So, we didn't think of these devices as phones. We thought about them as mini computers that you stuck in your pocket. They were big bricks at the time. But you could get the sense that over time, these networks were going to get faster and you would be able to get tons and tons of information delivered to your device in your pocket anytime and anywhere. And roughly around the same time, the first streaming music services started to launch in the US. And again, way before Spotify launched.
Way before there were apps on the App Store.
There wasn't even an App Store yet. No one even understood what apps meant at the time. Well, we did know what apps. We were building apps. But yes, way before there was an App Store.
Yeah, with the rest of us, uneducated people in the...
So the first, I think the first service that I used in the US was called Listen.com. It became Rhapsody.com. And, at the time, my wife and I were spending hundreds, if not thousands of dollars a month on CDs. And I remember the first time I used this service, Rhapsody, was $15 a month. And I thought, this is amazing. I can only stream it to my computer. I was like, this is amazing. $15 a month. I'm going to save so much money. I don't have to buy CDs anymore. And it was amazing to me that I would have paid $30 a month. I would have paid $50 a month for this kind of service. And it was amazing to me that $15 seemed like it was too expensive for the vast majority of people. But anyway, what it meant was I was starting to think about the possibility of these music streaming apps and how valuable they were going to be. And at the same time, I was working on these wireless devices. And one day I had that epiphany. I was like, wait a second. One day the device that's in my pocket will be powerful enough and will have a good enough network connection to be able to stream directly to it. Yeah. So instead of having to be limited to streaming on my PC, one day I'm going to be able to stream all of this stuff on this device that I'll have anytime. And I'm like, I'll have access to every song ever created in my pocket at all times. And I was like, oh, that's what I want my career to be, right? That was the first time that I saw that intersection between music and tech. And that's when I realized that maybe there would be an opportunity for me to carve out a career for myself at that intersection.
First of all, that's beautiful. Like tears for all the music lovers out there. And I too remember, actually Spotify was my moment of like, oh, all of these are like in one place. Right. Like so absolutely love that nod. But like the thing that you mentioned that was so kind of, just stood out to me was when you said this was the moment where I kind of intentionally started seeing these two areas of my life kind of come together and decided, hey, this is where I want my career to be.
Yep.
I think that's the moment everyone's trying to chase to get. And it's not an easy moment to have. You alluded to earlier that you have to like get the experience in first so that you almost have the data to kind of reach that point.
Yep.
Any thoughts or kind of, words of wisdom for college students now trying to navigate that? And like, I think sometimes we're busy chasing. We're not kind of, committed to the experience that gets us there. So again, any words of wisdom to help us find that moment where we see our passion and the thing we love intersect with the skills and the things we're good at.
I mean, what I tell everyone is, there are some people who know exactly what they want to do coming out of college, and God bless those people. I was not one of them,
right? Hope they're not watching the show. They're like, There
are some people who know they want to be engineers. They know they want to be lawyers. They know they want to be doctors, whatever, or go into finance. And those people, they have a career path planned for themselves from the day they graduate college. But in my experience, I didn't know what I wanted to do coming out of college. And I think that the vast majority of people graduating actually don't know what they want to do.
I agree.
Right?
I meet a lot of them, yeah.
I think that there's an expectation that you spend 4 years in college and, in most cases, a ridiculous amount of money. And you should know exactly what you want to do coming out of college. But I really don't think most students do know what they want to do. And given that, I think what I tell people is you really need to focus on learning, right? Not just learning a skill, but you need to focus on learning about yourself and learning what you're good at, learning what your passions are and what your talents are beyond what you thought they were when you graduated, right? And then maybe that helps you figure out what that North Star was, right? Like for me, I kind of knew I wanted to do something in music, but I had no idea how to do that. I discovered that I had this passion for technology, and it was only when I was when those worlds came together that I understood that there was an opportunity for myself. But had I not found out that I was good with technology, I wouldn't have been in that world, and I probably would have gone to law school. Who knows if I ever would have ended up working in music
law.
Somehow.
There you go.
But I do think that you need to maximize your opportunity for learning about yourself.
You distinctively kind of, separated learning about yourself from learning skills, which I agree. But what does learning about yourself mean to you?
I think it means what you're good at, right? I think humans naturally get passionate about things that they're good at, right? That you have a natural affinity for. And that natural affinity could be accounting, it could be marketing, it could be, tech development. Who knows what it is? Some people know exactly what that is coming out of college, but others don't, right? And I tell people a lot, lots of people are fixated on coming out of college that I want my dream job right away, or I want a job that perfectly aligns my passions and my skills. And I just need that perfect job. And tell people careers are long. You don't it's naive to believe that you could get your dream job coming out of college. And I'd argue that in a lot of cases, you don't want your dream job coming out of college. I just, I've seen too many instances where people get what they think is their dream job, end up hating it, and then feeling stuck. They're like, well, I thought this was my dream job. I really don't like this. I took a job with Spotify in marketing, and it turns out I don't like this, right? But you're working at the company that you've always wanted to work for, in an industry that you've always wanted to work for. And now maybe you feel a little bit stuck. I don't like this, but how do I lead it?
That's very real of an assessment.
Yeah. So I tend to tell people careers are long. As much as it would be amazing to absolutely love every minute of your career from the day you graduate college, that's unrealistic. I think it's okay if you I don't want to say it's okay if you hate what you're doing, but it's okay for to have lots and lots of experiences. Some you're going to get a lot of value out of, some you're going to hate. All of those should be learning experiences, right? All of that should be helping you determine what you're good at, what you're not good at, and then that will help define where your passions are and what you should be pursuing from a career perspective.
No, beautiful. And you mentioned, okay, the epiphany moment. You now, let's get back to that story in a sense. So okay, you've gotten at the head of the curve. You've seen the tech world, you've seen the music world. What do you do then? Do you immediately quit your job, start a new life? What's the next step?
So I knew that I had that passion, or I knew I wanted to head in that direction. And I actually remember writing emails. Maybe it wasn't emails. Maybe it was actually like letters at the time. But let's assume it was emails.
Okay.
Sending emails to all the executives at all the streaming companies. And there wasn't that many of them at the time. But basically writing letters and saying, hey, I'd love to come work for you and do mobile development. And I ended up talking to some people here and there. And generally the answer was,
what is that?
Call us in 5 years, right? Like we're trying to figure out how to get this, our services to stream to PCs. And like, if we figure that out and we figure out how to make a business out of that, then we'll figure out mobile. But it's going to take us a couple years to get there. So like, we're not saying no, but call us back in a couple years. So I knew I was a little bit early to the game. Like I said, the technology, the wireless technology didn't really exist yet to do what I was doing, or to do what I wanted to do. So I started looking for other jobs, and a job came up at Virgin Mobile. Virgin Mobile was a prepaid wireless carrier. Virgin as a brand, was very closely related to music. The legacy of the Virgin brand, like Richard Branson started started as like Virgin Records, like a record store in London, right? So the history of Virgin is very much intertwined with music. I also knew that Virgin Mobile was selling a lot of ringtones at the time. And this was the period in which people were unwilling to spend 99 cents on a song to download, but they were willing to spend $3 on a 20-second clip of that song to set as their ringtone on their phone. It was wild. So I knew that they had a legacy with music. I knew that they were selling ringtones. And I thought, well, I can take a job there. Maybe a music opportunity will present itself. So I didn't take a job. I took a job as the product manager for their first downloadable games platform.
Equally fun.
Equally fun.
Cool.
It was still, so we're on 5G networks now. So I think we were on 2G networks or 2.5G networks. Anyway, I got there and I was helping them build out a platform for downloadable games. And at some point, it was decided, this was just as the iPod was becoming really popular. I think Motorola had announced that they were going to be the first phone to license the iPod, effectively the software from Apple. So they were going to be a phone that had iPod functionality. And I think it was the chief marketing officer at Virgin at the time said, we need something like that. Like, obviously, we're not going to be able to license this from Apple. We don't have that kind of money, but we need a device that can play music, that you can sideload MP3s to, and that you can take with you. We were, a brand that was appealing to teenagers, knew how important music was. So the CMO put a team together of folks to work on all aspects of this phone. And I raised my hand and said, I'd like to work on that. It wasn't a gaming thing, but I said, I want to work on that. And there weren't a lot of people volunteering to work on it for a variety of reasons, but I volunteered. And I helped design the music player for this phone.
Ooh.
The phone itself wasn't a huge success, but at the end of the process, we launched the phone. It was, it did okay in the market, but then the CEO of the company said to me, like, oh, I guess you're the music guy now, right?
Now you're the music guy. There you go.
And that was exactly the hope, right? When I took the job, was that I'd find myself in that position. And I did, right? I got this opportunity. I worked my ass off, and I convinced everyone that I knew what I was doing. Whether I actually knew what I was doing or not, I'm not sure, but everyone assumed that I knew.
You were the music guy. There you go.
And so, we started working on a whole bunch of music strategy stuff for Virgin. And where we landed was we should do a radio product.
I am a big fan.
Yeah. I mean, especially at the time, we couldn't, like, streaming music on demand, like picking the song that you want, playing it over and over again, wasn't really possible. It was cost prohibitive. The networks weren't really quite good enough yet for that kind of usage. So we decided to do a streaming radio product. And as we were building the product, or at least speccing out the product, Pandora launched. And I was immediately blown away by it. I thought it was the greatest music product I had ever used before. Really just thought it was amazing. And I remember thinking, why am I building my own radio product? Right? Like, this is like, why should I build it myself? I should just go and license Pandora before it gets too big, before anyone really knows what it is, before they even know how amazing their product is. I should go and license this and just put that on Virgin Mobile phones. And so I went out and met with Pandora folks and had a few conversations with them over the course of the next few months. And at one point, the woman who hired me, who became kind of a mentor of mine, said, we're not really interested in working with Virgin. It's just too small. It's too small.
Heartbreaking.
Yeah, we'd rather, like, our sights are set on working with the big carriers like AT&T and Verizon. And again, this was still 2 years pre-iPhone, something like that. So they said, we know we want to be in mobile. Would you ever consider coming to work for us and helping lead our mobile efforts? Mm-hmm. And yes, I immediately, like, I mean, it was immediate. Like in my head, I knew I was like, yes, I'm going to work there. And the one catch was I could move to California where Pandora was based and lead product management for the mobile product. And at the time, that's what I was focusing on, was product management. Or the other option was I could stay in New York and be the first hire on the business development team to do the deals.
Oh, it's all coming together now.
And I just had my first kid, and Pandora was still a startup, and we had too much family in the immediately around here to take the chance of moving to the West Coast. And so I said, look, I can't move to the West Coast, but I really want to work at Pandora. I'm happy to take the business development job, but I don't really know what business development is. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. So, like, as long as you know that and we agree that we're going to, like, learn this together, I'm down. And that's what happened. So I took the job. I was, I think, the 30th employee at Pandora.
Well,
and the first New York City employee, and
that's
it was amazing. Yeah.
That is amazing. Yeah. Wow. Okay. There is so much to unpack there. Amazing. Like, I'm blown away just by that itself. And I guess the question I have is, like, Pandora really, like, to your point, it's like almost like the tipping point in streaming. It gets closer to where we are today in the world of streaming and music. What were some of the things that maybe you were learning, again, being so early on in the industry that, we today cannot possibly imagine, in a sense? And what were some of those early experiences and hurdles that you have to jump to not only move Pandora, but move the industry to where it is today in streaming?
I'm trying to remember. It was so long ago. I think it was just so new for everyone, right? It was there was so much to figure out. Like, one, did the users actually want this, right? Like, we knew that everyone who worked at Pandora was, like, we were all huge music geeks, right? And we knew we loved this product. We got a sense that lots and lots of people were going to like this product, but it was still so unknown. Like, how are people going to want to listen to it? Where do they want to engage? Will there be enough engagement amongst people who like this thing that it will be monetizable? And if it is monetizable, will it be monetizable enough to sustain the business? So I think in the early days, it was just about, can we build a product that people like? Yes. And can we make enough money to at least stay in business long enough to build the next version of the product? So when I started at Pandora, we were very much focused on the PC and web development. In fact, I think when I started, so I said I took the job in business development because there was no product management job available. But then we landed a mobile deal, developing a version of Pandora for a flip phone before smartphones existed. And I remember talking to our CTO at the time, and I was like, well, okay, we're going to do this deal. Someone needs to develop the app. Who's that going to be? And he's like, I don't know. I don't have enough resources on my team to define what this app is going to do. He's like, you used to be a product manager. Why don't you do it?
Oh, so you now
So
went,
I
okay,
actually
there
wrote,
you go.
I actually wrote the
now
first.
you are the app guy.
Yeah. I wrote the first product requirements document for Pandora's first mobile app. I think I still have it somewhere.
That you should frame it.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, well, it's a book. It's like I put it in a binder, and I've got the binder somewhere.
You should print it in gold and just like put it in a showcase in your house. There
but I think that was the interesting part in the beginning. Like, could we make it work? Would people pay for it? How much would they pay? Could you license it appropriately? I mean, we knew we were licensed appropriately, but could you, within the confines of the license, could you grow it and make it big enough?
And I think that is very relevant questions that a lot of entrepreneurs who are our lovely audience are probably pondering those questions themselves. And I want to kind of jump forward to some of the work that you do today as well, because you work again in integrations at Spotify in a sense, and basically are enabling all of the spaces we see Spotify pop up in from, again, the Meta products you mentioned, from TikTok, from every other kind of platform where we love and see Spotify in outside of its nice green app. And, I think a lot, and that itself is an intersection that's really interesting to me, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs are very concerned of, I need to do something new. I need to disrupt the industry. I need to go head first. That they don't realize that there's a lot of opportunity in collaboration with, existing platforms or platforms who are, again, disrupting together almost. I'm curious in your experience and also in the work you do now, what is that space for people who want to kind of, work in an existing industry or create something in an existing industry that doesn't necessarily disrupt things, but go hand in hand with existing products? How do we start thinking about solutions like that?
It's a good question. I don't have a great answer, but I think back to originally, so you said what I do at Spotify, right? So I should say that my team is responsible for any place where you see a Spotify experience that is deeply embedded or deeply integrated into another product. My team is responsible for managing those relationships, at least on the business side. So Apple, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Samsung, Meta, Instagram, TikTok, every car company, right? Any place where you see hardware, software, whatever it is, Spotify built in, my team generally manages those relationships. But if I think back to the beginning of my career, none of that existed, right? There was no connected devices. There were no, there weren't cars that you could stream stuff to. There weren't TVs. There were barely even stereos, right? So to a certain extent, the work that me and my team did at Pandora, we invented that entire category of ubiquity, right? Ubiquity and ubiquitous distribution just didn't exist before. We did, in fact, I think we did the first ever Samsung connected device was a Blu-ray player that connected to the internet, had no Wi-Fi, so you had to plug it in using a cable to your router. And the only two services on there were Pandora and Netflix. And that was after that device, we're like, okay, there's a market here, a category here that we can invent. So I think to your point, maybe there's a part of a question of it's not so much disruption. It's actually invention of a new category, but an invention of a new category within maybe the framing of an existing company, if that makes sense, right? We had this streaming product that we had on PC at Pandora. We had the streaming product that we're making available on mobile. We knew that radio was going to be important for people anytime, any place, anywhere. We knew that we couldn't be limited to just those two platforms. The other platforms didn't really exist, so we kind of created that segment, if that makes sense. We didn't start from scratch and say, we're going to build this service that's only for cars and disrupt the car. We're well, we should create this space. We should help make sure that ubiquity becomes a thing. And I think we paved the way for a lot of other companies. And when I came to Spotify to see that there was such an investment happening in ubiquity as well, I would argue that the work that we've done at Spotify in the last 10 years took the work that I guess we started at Pandora and just multiplied it by, 100x, if not 1000x, whatever it is. But really helped expand the idea of ubiquity and ubiquitous access to music and audio.
And as we kind of wind down our conversation, what are you excited about in the future of streaming?
The thing that has always attracted me to this overlap of music and technology is not so much that it gives me access anytime, anywhere, any place. Like that in and of itself is pretty awesome.
That's pretty good, yeah.
No question.
But that's second place for you.
No, I wouldn't say second place, but once I realized that not only was ubiquitous access possible, but that a fully personalized experience was possible, and a fully personalized experience that was just for me. That wasn't an FM radio station that was trying to satisfy the preferences of a million people at a time. Then I realized that that's the real power. Like essentially, once you can stream everywhere, then you have the opportunity to create personal DJs for everybody, so that they get the exact right song at the exact right moment based on a million different factors. That's what excites me the most, is that the amount of change that we've seen in personalization over the last 10 or 15 years has just been wild. Like the Spotify's ability to sort of get it right on a constant basis is insane. Like insanely good compared to what it was just a couple.
Better than me. It's scary.
But what's exciting is, like, as well as we know you now, it's just going to get better, right? It's going to get to the point where, and not in a creepy way, that that we're going to be able to personalize things for you in the exact right time at the exact right moment. And that's just remarkably exciting to me.
So for all of the people out there who are excited about tech and music, any advice for them in their career, whether they are an aspiring entrepreneur or aspiring to work at a company like Spotify? Any advice of how they can navigate the industry as a whole, but also their own journey?
I do think music, if we separate music from audio, music itself is super complicated, right? It is a legacy business that's been around for a long time, that has lots and lots of rules associated with the licensing of that content. And understanding how all of that works is a challenge. It took me years to actually understand all of the rules that govern what, like,
you got to fulfill your law degree.
Yeah, why things work in a particular way, why they have to work in a particular way. So I think that for someone who wants to get into the music space specifically, trying to understand as quickly as possible and as early as possible how the music industry works is super important. And then when I mean the industry, that's the licensing part of it, as well as, like, what is the role of the record labels? What is the role of the publishers? What is the role of promoters and venues and managers? Like, so understanding how the entire ecosystem works is remarkably important first step. You can learn that on the job, but, like, if music is something that you're passionate about, understanding how that ecosystem works is definitely the first step.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time. You have been wonderful to talk to. I feel like I just got, like, the crash course, like, world history on the music tech business. So I appreciate you taking the time out to spend with me and our audience. And
Happy to do it.
I just hope you had as much fun as we did listening to your story.
Yes, it was great.
So this is podcast number 1. And when you launch your own podcast at Spotify, we'll all make sure to listen in. But thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And to all our audience, this has been Changing Reality. Thank you once again for an amazing show. See y'all.